everybody, this is Tony.
And this is Paul. We're coming at you from the Friends for Life podcast, where we discuss the ongoing lives and issues of people with developmental disabilities to spark positive change in the field.
And we have a lot of fun doing it.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Friends for Life podcast. Thanks for tuning back in. Before we get started here, just want to remind you that Friends for Life is currently hiring. So if you'd like to come work with us, head over to friendsforliferc.com. Click on the employment tab, fill out the form. We'll get back with you. Today, we are talking about DSP Appreciation Week. I know it was last week, but we just kind of want to acknowledge that and, discuss it a little bit. And Tony, what do you got to say about DSP Appreciation Week?
I love you guys. No, I mean, it was, for one, it was pretty cool. We at Friends for Life did some nice things. We gave out some gift baskets. And one thing that I did, man, I forwent my salary for the month to give bonuses. So I am not getting paid this month.
Very nice.
But I thought it was very important to try to give some people some hope that there is a better time coming. But what tripped me out is honestly what I think most people don't realize as the DSP, how much our individuals care. Like if you guys haven't, we didn't do a podcast last week for multiple reasons, but the DSP appreciation was one of them. You know, I can say how much I appreciate, but actually hear it from the people that you're serving, I think that makes a big difference. Yeah,
absolutely. So, I went out and I got some discussions going with some of the clients, and it turned out pretty cool, I think. You know,
yeah,
it was shorter than
but
normal.
It was nice and open.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, and all those questions were. I just asked, what are some, like the questions that popped up on the screen or during the podcast are the questions I asked. Like, what do your DSPs help you with? And I got answers ranging from what the heck's a DSP to awesome stuff, such as, a lot of clients said they're very grateful to have someone to just help them with their day-to-day life, because we take a lot of the stuff that they need help with for granted every single day.
Yeah.
Like simple things like doing laundry or stuff that we don't bat an eye at. So I think it's a good reminder of, why this job is important and why, the clients are so reliant on staff sometimes for some of the help that they need. And they really do appreciate, even if sometimes they can be a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Just like me.
Really much. And, and it's even... I'm not going to act like I was the most perfect DSP growing up. Growing up in this field, I had a lot of situations. We were kind of talking. I remember somebody saying some stuff about CEOs if they didn't make so much that it will make a difference, and like that's not going to fix the problem that we have.
Well, these aren't Fortune 500 companies. These are local businesses. I mean, CEOs are probably making a little more than probably the average, person that is working. But I mean, it's not like you're rolling in $10 million.
Exactly.
That's just a side note.
But, but it's definitely something that I want our people to understand. They might see me in a nice car, but do they really know where I had to go? Did you see all my other cars?
I did.
Yeah. I had one, man, I swear, like, we said it was twerking every time it hit a bump because it was just going loop, 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 loop. The suspension was horrible.
Was it that Chevy?
No, it was a Buick.
Buick? Okay.
Yeah, it was a red Buick,
I don't know if I remember that one.
Oh, man, no, the Chevy was that was a major upgrade. I bought that from, rest in peace, my cousin / brother. And now my son, he bought it for me afterwards. But since, because the cousin in question is Juju. He was my kid's godfather. So now we're keeping that car no matter what. Like it's going to be in a museum before anything. But, there's so many give and take scenarios, and we have to really notice what we're doing. In what we're giving and what we're taking away from it. And I think if we continue giving the passion, and if we have people continuing to give the passion, it is a person like myself or other CEOs that we need to find ways to not only appreciate, but give the financial stability until we can get the taxes raised to pay more people what what I guess a living wage is. I hate that we gotta. I just went down that hole a little bit, but
well, yeah. I mean, it's not a simple solution, which everybody wishes it was. Obviously, I wish all of my solutions were simple. But that's not how it goes. And I, sometimes on this show I get torn. It's like because it kind of feels like we're beating a dead horse with the whole wage thing and the DSPs and the staffing crisis and blah, 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 blah. But I also feel that we are not going to make a solution until we're talking about it also, because we need more voices in that conversation, including DSPs. And we would like to have DSPs on the show to voice real concerns without consequence. But that's there. You learn just a natural, like as a boss and CEO and owner of the company, they're going to be much more hesitant to give you a straight answer because you're sitting in the hot seat, basically. So I understand that dichotomy is there, believe me.
You know what? It's funny that you say that, because I was reading something the other day that basically says the open door policy is shit. And, I've prided myself on this open door policy. If you got a problem, text, email, let me know. And it just turns out to be that it doesn't work. People don't feel comfortable about coming to their boss, especially, and I hate using the term boss, but coming to their employer as, open as you want them to be. But like you said, the discussion has to take place at some point in time if we're going to actually make any true change.
Well, and, the discussion, it's very difficult, and dealing with people in general is a difficult job. And that's just anywhere. I mean, that's all of our jobs essentially in this field is dealing with other people. And, I say dealing with because every person has things going on in their life. Every person has emotions. Everybody has different reactions to different situations. And that is a difficult thing. And just because you have an open door policy, quote unquote, not specifically with Friends for Life, but anywhere, doesn't mean that your employer is still going to agree with you. I mean, that's also part of it coming in there. I mean, there's so many factors to take into account with so many different things going on. Sometimes, it's just like any business. There can be rough months, and sometimes there's not enough money to go around, and sometimes you can. Sometimes you give bonuses, and a lot of people don't see the behind the scenes of financial, which, granted, that's not always their problem. Everybody wants what's best for them, and we could go down this rabbit hole for 10, 15 hours. My brain works very logically, so I'm always trying to rectify these situations in my head and rack my brain about them. But
it's what I appreciate about you.
Yeah, everybody needs to see both sides of the story too, because granted, there are situations where you can just have an employer that's a straight up a-hole. That's a real thing. Yeah. I've been there. I've tried to work in the past and work with people, and sometimes it's like getting married. You don't want to get married to someone you don't get along with, That's how work is as well. But you need to everybody needs to be open about what's actually going on, I think, sometimes, and work more towards a solution rather than complaining. Because complaining is complaining. Complaining towards a solution is different. If you're just in there to be upset and you're not coming with a solution to the problem, then it's not a productive situation for anyone, because your boss is going to be upset that you're wasting their time, and they're probably stressed too, and they don't want to hear you complain because they're already been hearing everybody else complain. And that's kind of my solution. Like Tony and I had a discussion earlier today before the podcast started. We had someone come to us and with an idea, and it was a good idea. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but the end result is, how much time do we have to pour into this idea? Right. It's a very intensive idea. And in the end, putting all this time and effort into this idea, I'm trying to be very vague so the person is not offended. But you put all this time into an idea, and then who's going to receive the final product?
What
is it really worth? If it's this internal thing, who's going to listen to it? Is it going to be the 50 hours we put into this project? Is it going to pay off in 50 hours of listen time or 0? So it's one of those things too. I as the media director, cannot say yes to every situation. Like, you get people coming to you with ideas, and great.
Hey, Paul, I got an idea. Let's film a movie.
Yeah, I love ideas. Trust me, I'm always giving ideas, but the amount of time that I have to make those ideas a reality, now that's another story. So, yeah, that's. We went down a rabbit hole. That's what happens when it's just me and Tony. We just go down these deep thought patterns.
Just talking.
That's how we do. But I know you wanted to tell some stories, Tony, about your younger life as a DSP and some of the wild and crazy things that have happened to get away from my inevitably heavy down rabbit hole talks of nonsense. So let's steer away from that.
Well, I first want to give another shout out to all the agencies that are around that have done things for their DSPs, especially throughout the week. I know Assured Health, they had like a whole week thing that hopefully you guys can check out. We'll leave a link for them. But I mean, they paid somebody's car payment off and everything, and like it was some pretty cool stuff. Like I look up to those guys with the way that they do things.
Hey, Chris, you hiring, man?
Yeah, right. I
Just
think he can get us both in.
You can pay my car off, dude. I'll help you out.
But just thinking about back when I was a DSP, and I guess you live through struggles, so you can eventually someone else can learn from it. And it was so early on in my early 20s. I was so selfish behind my actual work ethic. And maybe there's a lot of people like this, but it was all about me. How much money could I make? How much work do I have to do? How much this is going to equate to me getting more with doing less? Like that was really the mindset in a sense. And I don't even think I noticed it until closer to 25 that I was like, this isn't working for me. I've already, I lost some jobs. I don't want to say I burnt bridges, but I definitely was not able to have the same kind of conversations with people that I had once been able to.
Yeah.
So here's a story. For example, I was once working with two individuals in one site. I really loved working with one person more than the other. It was my natural way of thinking because the things that I was doing, this individual enjoyed. The other individual didn't enjoy the same things. Now, instead of me getting in an uncomfortable situation and learn what this person enjoyed and try to learn a little more about it, which ironically enough, it was hunting and fishing and stuff like that. So I didn't really put myself in a position to be uncomfortable to learn what this individual wanted.
Yeah.
Well, there became a time where he requested that I no longer work with him and no longer work there. So once this request was made, now this employer, I'm not going to say they had the best emotional intelligence because they could have told me about the situation a better way and let me know that I was being moved to another place. But tomato, no, that's neither here nor there.
As I always say, potato, tomato, whatever.
Right. But it was, now they moved me to another situation, which I was way more uncomfortable with. Not only did I not have the best skill sets for the individuals that I was serving, I had at least a 15-minute more commute. I had 2 extra individuals to care for. I had to switch from doing second shifts to third shifts. Like, I'm telling you, complete, just utter chaos in my life at that moment because I refused to do the simple changes early on or to get myself uncomfortable enough in a world that I was already showing progression in, because the other individual I worked with was showing stellar needs being met, meeting their plan bases and all that. But I eventually, after about 2 weeks, did not work there anymore. And this was something that I actually stayed, 3 weeks, because I actually stayed an extra week because they were having a staffing problem trying to cover that area. But I always look at that move, and again, it was the management's situation that made me not want to stay. But if I would have just accepted that uncomfortable situation early on at that place, I think things would have turned out completely different. Maybe even for the worse. I may have just still been working there.
Yeah, I mean, that's when you're in your 20s, it's easy to do that because you don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, you're really just thinking, what's going to get me to the next party, or at least that's what I was thinking at the time.
It's gonna get me the next phone, the next
Yeah,
car, the next whatever.
I was doing a lot of hustling too, in the sense of nothing illegal, but I mean I was getting stuff from China, selling it on eBay. Like I was really into that commerce life that turned out to. I mean, made a few extra grand here and there a year, but it wasn't anything that I saw long term and substantial. I'm a service industry person. I don't like having products. But if you do want to buy a French for Life coffee mug, you can go to FrenchForLifeRC.com.
They're pretty good coffee mugs too. I'm not gonna lie. They hold coffee.
Yeah. And that water.
And water, and what you can put really anything in
Any
there.
liquid that you want.
Or salads.
Yes.
M&Ms.
Most salads. Pins.
Up half a slice of pizza if you fold it up nicely.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're great cups. So they're only $400 on our website.
Yep.
And all proceeds go directly to me.
Well, I was going to say to our DSPs, but if you want to get yelled at, you can.
If you're going to pay me $400 for a coffee cup, you can yell at me all you'd like as well. So that's a deal, the deal of the century as far as I'm concerned. So any other wild stories that you have? I mean, you've told stories in the past about getting potentially stabbed and beat up, but any others that are kind of, not so common?
I really enjoyed a lot of my first times when I started as a bus monitor. Like,
what does that job entail?
Oh, dude, being a distraction so the driver doesn't get pummeled or anything.
Good call.
Because there were several different ways. Some monitoring situations called for like helping with a lot of wheelchairs. And that was one of my main routes. But when you're dealing with some people who have a developmental difference that can make them physically aggressive, that's what the monitor is there to keep the driver safe and give the individuals an opportunity to get to their destination, to live their lives accordingly. But I used to love it because I was still so young and energetic that, I would be dancing up and down the aisles, jokes. I've always been a corny dad joke guy, so that never has changed. I got spit on quite a bit on this one route, man.
That's just the podcast.
Yeah, right. There was this guy, man. He didn't regularly just spit. He would spit in his hand and then throw it at you. The accuracy was amazing. Paul's like, no, I don't want. Look, man, spit is spit, but it was it was a learning experience.
Spit is spit, and that's fine. It's a completely different thing when it's on your face, and it's someone else's.
Yeah, but there's so many. I can't really put it down to one story that I think is my all-time, but I will say that there is one scenario in which I think I'm more ecstatic. There's a gentleman out here, I call him AC. That is not his name, initials of his name, so you guys decipher if you can. But he went from needing staff for 24/7 basis to going down to from an IO waiver. If you don't know what that is, send us a message. I'll tell you, because we have some stuff coming up on all the acronyms anyway. But he went from over 168 hours needed of service to 4 hours a week. Wow. And working on getting his driver's license, and I know I was a major influence in that part of his life because I think I'm just a year older than him, but we were, in a sense, we hung out like friends, and doing that and making his position known to his team like where we want to see him. Like he doesn't even take the meds the same way that he has to. He takes them more for his more for other medical needs versus mental and physical needs. So I'm just so happy, man. And when you can make that kind of change in somebody's life and do it for yourself and for that individual, it's always a plus.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that's kind of like overall the end goal of everything is to help individuals be more self-sufficient and not have to rely so much on other people.
Yeah.
How plausible do you think that is for like the average person, people?
It can be done. We just got to think outside of the box. You know, if somebody has a problem cooking, maybe they don't need to cook on a gas fire raging stove. Maybe we teach them how to make crock pot meals. Or how about we put in some remote supports that somebody can look from a distance and say, hey, this is the scenario. You know, we need to think outside of the box more often for our people, especially in today's times. Today's times are really showing that if you need somebody standing there with you 24/7, excuse me, there's going to be a difficulty in getting somebody to do that. So I believe it's very realistic. We have another person that we just increased remote supports on, and he's been living a pretty decent life in the past couple of years with us changing the way that we wanted to, what the team wanted to. Now, unfortunately, some of these things that he's going through that he's doing now, that he has now for his assistants, could have been done previously. But we had people who were more, again, back to that younger like me, they were more worried about themselves and their financial situation and their comfort level versus the individuals. And that it came to light, and it's very noticeable. But he's doing better. He's doing good.
Well, yeah, and that's just something I think people, they have to learn that on their own with, you know, how they can increase their self-awareness in those kind of situations, because when you're younger, it's so much easier to just be like me.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, to a certain extent, you do need to be like that occasionally to take care of yourself and make sure, you know, like you can't take care of other people if you're not taking care of yourself.
True.
But it's a tightrope. That's basically all there is to it. I mean, there's, you know, doing stuff. I think over time, a lot of people, when they kind of get a little bit older, and they say, I think they put your brain's still developing until you're in your like mid 20s or something.
Yeah, like 25, I think is the common.
So like you just need until after that point, you really don't become more self-aware, I don't think, a lot of the time, unless you're just extremely diligent in learning how to become more self-aware. But I think that as an adult, it becomes a little easier to kind of just accept that you need to help stuff with other people instead of just being about yourself all the time.
Yeah.
So it's a what do they call that? A conundrum.
Yeah.
Because you can't.
Everyone loves conundrums just because the word is cool.
It's a cool word. It's the only big word I've ever said in my life. So.
And you know what, folks, I want to put something out there as well. If Paul and I don't seem as energetic and stuff as we typically are, we both are going through some trauma events, which goes back to a lot of the discussions we've had recently on the podcast. But we're both dealing with loss in our family of people that are very close to us. And
isn't that wild how it happened? And all this stuff happens at the same time. Like Tony lost someone, a week later I lost someone, like very close family members. So last week was kind of a scramble to get something together real fast kind of week.
I mean, between funerals and all of that, and you know, it's so we're still gonna give you content, and we're gonna do this unapologetically because this is what we do, and there's no way that we can, I would say, preach the stuff that we're preaching if we didn't do this kind of thing when we didn't feel like it. Like, and it's a gloomy day out. Like, we really could have just
heading into fall. It's just getting gloomy.
So,
but, yeah, and that's we. You know, there's a line where you make a call, and you know, like that we never want to miss podcasts or whatever, and you know, sometimes you just got to make stuff work even when you don't want to. And, you know, I was telling Tony the other day, this is really the only time I leave my house. Yeah. Like when we do the podcast or if I go to the gym after work or something. But I'd say 90% of my time is at home by myself editing video and audio. So like this is the one day of the week where I get out and we do stuff. So right. 1 or 2 day a week, depending on the week. So yeah, it's good to be kind of getting back into the swing of things and moving ahead full force because, you know, I'm not much of a sit around and dwell on it kind of guy. Like just, you know, do what you can and get on with it. But yeah, it's been a rough month.
Yeah.
So far. I mean, it's, you
know,
yeah,
but
what do you do? What do you do? Life happens fast, man. That's why we're always preaching the, and I think the loss factor a lot of the time too, when you start to get into your 30s and early 40s, mid 30s is when death starts creeping in because that's when a lot of the people you've known your whole life are significantly older, family members, and you know I've seen a lot of that happen. Just friends that I've had a long time ago, and people that I've known, you know, just kind of kicking the bucket, and you just you know that makes you more self-aware too because you kind of start to think to yourself, oh. Yeah, it'll be me someday. Like, right. I need to get this done. So it just goes to prove more of what we've been preaching this whole time is like you only get this one opportunity to do what you're going to do, whether that's to build Friends for Life as a business or your own, you know, whatever your goals are. If you want to start your own this or that, like, stop waiting.
Yeah.
The longer you wait, the less chance you're going to have to be successful. I mean,
the excuses are always going to be there why you can't do something. So we got to figure out on how to do them.
Yeah. That's why we talk so much about solution, and not just, you know, we understand that not everybody cares enough or you know, is willing to put in that time and effort to make solutions, but we really do want to make solutions because at the end of the day, Tony will die, I will die, you listening will die, and that's something to keep in the back here. I believe they call that memento mori, where it's like the telling yourself to a reminder that you're going to die someday, and that's something Gary Vee basically says a lot of the time is, hey, you know, my goal, why I'm so driven is I wake up every morning and realize that I'm going to die, and I have to make this time count now. So. You know, that has really nothing to do with the disability field, but that's just a morbid reminder of.
I mean, it really does, though, and that's the thing that we've been preaching anyway about the disability field. We tend to think like normal life doesn't apply to it. Literally, when COVID started, man, I lost a minimum of 15 people that I personally worked with, dead, gone. I wasn't even able to attend funerals and stuff. And I've worked with these people. I've, you know, cared for them, hugged them, you know, high five. Some have kissed me and tried to take advantage of me. But, you know, there's this.
Don't tell people about me live on the air, okay?
But, you know, it kind of broke me down. And then losing, you know, people and friends and guests and stuff. Like, I mean, it's trippy.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. What I've done recently, and I don't know how morbid it is, but maybe somebody's listening and this will help you. I've tried to stop yelling at my kids so much.
That's terrible. That's difficult.
Yeah, it is. But I'm gonna tell you something that put it completely in retrospect to me, or in perspective. I imagine them in a coffin. Like, dude, it gives me chills. And I tell you, when I imagine that, I'm not screaming at them anymore. And I'm apologizing if I did scream at them. And I mean, I kind of been doing that a little more lately, even, you know, with my loved ones, people that I would normally be like, hey, why the hell are you doing this? Da, 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 da. I'm like, no, I don't want to go that route anymore. I don't want to be viewed as the person who broke a relationship over something so minuscule. Like, everybody's going to make their own decisions in life. You just got to I guess we have to live with them in a sense. If we don't agree with their decision, stay away. If we agree with them and want to help them, insert yourself. But,
yeah, and I think it would be, and if anybody listening or watching knows anybody that would be a good guest on that topic, I think it would be a great tool or great conversation to have, at least to bring awareness to that, because this is a field that, and we don't talk about this a lot because it's not easy to talk about, is there are a lot of deaths in this field. I mean, it is unfortunate. And, I've seen it with my wife working in the field. I've seen it just working here in this short time. People pass away, and it's fairly regularly, and that's part of what you sign up for when you work in this field long term. And it's not an easy thing. It's not like, oh, well, just another Tuesday, Jimmy died, it's not like that. It lingered, and it's not a good feeling. So I think it would benefit if anybody knows an expert on death, if that's a thing, or somebody who works with.
I was going to say like a mortician, or is that what we look for?
I'm not. There has to be a psychologist out there that deals with specifically the death topic. But yeah, I think that would be a good benefit to have on the show, to talk about this issue, because it's a real daily occurrence. I mean, for a lot of people, and it's not something that we talk about anymore, especially in the way our American culture is. It's kind of like shoved off into a corner.
Yeah.
Death is a very formal affair. It hasn't always been that way. So,
no.
But yeah, on that note, I think I don't have anything else to say. Yeah. I don't know what else to say today.
Listen, guys, our next one will be more energetic. As I said, we're just trying to get through some of the tough times. Yeah. We are excited about some new things that we're already putting in place and that we're doing. And we want you guys to be just excited. The listenership is still growing. The following is real. So we appreciate your time. And on that, if you can hear my smile, I don't know what that was.
Yeah, and do not forget to like and subscribe our YouTube channel. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening, if you can leave us a review on iTunes, that would be super helpful. It boosts our rating, and it gets more ears and eyes on the topic of disabilities. And on that note, I want to thank you all for watching or listening, and we'll see you next week.
Later.